continue on. So this week we're talking about mail, incoming and outgoing mail. So I have a question for you. When is the last time you received mail, like snail mail from a Canada Post?
Last week.
Last week, what did you get?
I got my T4 from my work, and yeah, I think that's what I got.
Yeah. Do you ever get any personal letters anymore? Does anybody send personal letters? Do you miss it?
Yes and no. It is kind of nice getting like a handwritten note and like, oh, someone actually,
Yeah, took the time to write that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Now all we ever get here are, well, T4s or bills, or it's never like happy good news. It's usually like some kind of work related thing that I have to do or pay a bill or whatever. So yeah, I personally miss having personal letters sent. I really like that. And postcards, when people went on trips, they used to send postcards. They don't do that anymore. But I don't send them anymore either. It's cheaper and faster just to send an email or a chat or whatever. So it's too much time, I guess, to send snail mail. Plus it takes a week to get to somebody, or 2 or 3 days at least, right? So it's just not as quick. However, in the business world, we still use it a fair bit. So there's a few things that I wanted to talk about in the reading, just point out, make sure that people pay attention to. Do you have any questions before we start though, Chloe?
Nope.
Okay. So what I'll do then is I'm just going to go through the points that I want to cover in the reading. And then I want to talk about the assignment, because we have to go into the Canada Post website for the assignment. And it's a bit of a challenging website to navigate. So I'm going to take you in there and show you a couple of things. And then we'll see if you have questions after that. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is on page 2. So the inter-office mail. Have you ever had to do inter-office mail at all? Hello, Ariane and Reed, welcome.
Hello.
Chloe, have you ever done inter-office mail?
No.
What, mail from one department to another? No. How about you, Ariana Reed?
Sorry, I missed that. I just joined.
No worries. I said, have you ever had to send inter-office mails, like sending mail from one department to another within the same company?
Yes, I have. Yep.
Have you? Okay. And what do you do? Do you use inter-office?
There was like we are provided with our own emails.
Okay.
And like set up on all of the computers that are being used. And the email, like it's kind of like how Fanshawe Online operates. So we have access to everyone.
Okay. So you do it all digitally, all electronically.
Yes. So
Okay.
maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, no. We actually started out talking about the difference between electronic and we like to call it snail mail, paper mail.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because not many people, Chloe and I were saying at the beginning, really the only things we get in from Canada Post now are bills, maybe your T4, but very few people get personal letters anymore in the mail, right? People just don't take the time.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah. So at your
nice
work,
to send postcards when you're traveling.
that's what I said. I miss the postcards. They were so much fun. I mean, you usually get home long before the postcards got delivered, but it was still fun.
Exactly. And it's like a little surprise.
Yeah. So now everybody sends posts it on Instagram or whatever social media you're using. So it's instant, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to get into it now, but will we be discussing Silex later on?
We can, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. I'll ask some questions after.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
How about you, Reed? Have you ever sent inter-office mail?
Yeah, I've been doing that, but by intranet.
Okay,
Same
so
members,
electronically
the
as
same
well.
departments, yeah, the same company, maybe in the different cities, but yeah, by internet. By
Okay.
personal emails, not really. No, when I was working in a company.
Okay, all right. Aisha, how about you?
Sorry, Sherry, I wasn't here when you asked the question.
Have you ever worked in an office where you've had to send mail to other departments?
I work in an office for a small construction company, but I rarely send like mail. I used
Okay.
to open the mail. I used to send people for a code, but not other than that.
Okay, so you'll be able to speak to opening and distributing the mail then. Awesome. Good. All right. So like you guys were saying, most companies send information back and forth electronically now, but there's still some things that we have to send paper-based. So when we're sending paper-based documents within the company, whether it's within one building or within multiple building sites, we can use something called an inter-office, sorry, gotta get my mouse on the right page, an inter-office envelope. So have you guys ever seen one of these?
Oh, yes, actually, that's where I put all my minutes and like after, and I give it to finance.
Perfect, perfect. So that's okay. So most of you have seen one. So the way these work is these don't go out to Canada Post. This is just an internal envelope, right? So you write the date, you write the name of the person that it's going to, and you write the department number or the office number where they are located. This one has who sent it and what department they're in. Most inter-office envelopes don't have that second part. I have one here. This is the kind we use at Fanshawe, so I think you guys can see that. So it just has two columns, just the who is it going to and what department are they in? And you would fill up all of this. And then when that was done, then you start on this side and fill up all of that. So the nice thing about these is they're reusable, right? So you can use the same envelope over and over and over again. In fact, this one has both on the front and on the back. So this could be used like 100 times before you had to get rid of it, as long as, of course, it's still in good shape, because sometimes they get ripped if you put too much in them, or, you know, just through the process of sending them, they can get damaged. So that's what the inter-office envelopes look like. Question, do you think you can send confidential information in one of these? So are you saying no? Why not?
It can easily like kind of be opened by somebody and just look at it.
Okay, do you guys agree with that?
I think if they are sent to a specific person at this time, so that they're gonna open this and send it back. So I think there is no problem.
Okay, all right, so we have opposite opinions there. Ariane, you gave me a thumbs up. Do you agree with Chloe or Aisha?
I agree. I don't think confidential should be in there.
Okay, so you're agreeing with Chloe. Reed, what about you?
I agree with Chloe.
Okay, Aisha, you're on your own. Sorry, it's my cough, I apologize. So here's the thing. It depends on the level of confidentiality. By rights, no one should open this envelope except the person that it's addressed to or their assistant, right? Because the assistant does handle the manager's mail if it's going to a manager. So the thing is, if you do have to send something that's very confidential, so let's say there was something for HR, maybe there was a harassment case and you're sending some very delicate information, you could still use an inter-office envelope, but you have a couple of options. You would put the information in a sealed envelope and put it inside the the inter-office, and or at Fanshawe, what we have is we have tape, I guess, tape or stamps, whatever you want to call it, that say confidential. So once you close that envelope, you put that seal on it. It's just like a strip of tape that says confidential. And then if anybody opens it, that would be ripped, so people would know if someone got into it who shouldn't be looking at it. So yes, you're both correct in that I wouldn't send anything overly confidential unless I had it either sealed or in a sealed envelope inside. Sometimes what I've done as well is our excuse me, our mailroom was in the photocopy room at Fanshawe. So if I ever had to send anything that was confidential, see how they have the holes in it? I would put a blank piece of paper on top of whatever was in there so that if somebody did look through the holes, they wouldn't be able to read even any of the words. It's unlikely that they would, but again, better safe than sorry. All right, so then what would happen is once you filled this out, there'd be a special mail slot that you put it in. And then whoever was responsible for taking the mail throughout the office would come and pick it up and drop it off to the next person to use it. And then when you're done, when you've taken everything out, what you do is you cross off. So we would cross off this line like they've done up above and put it back in the to be reused pile. Any questions about interoffice? All right. So then the next thing I want to talk about is on page 3. Again, there's still lots of stuff in here I'm not going to touch. I'm just hitting the high level stuff. So Aisha was saying that you had to handle the incoming mail in one of the offices that you worked in. So I just want to talk about the process of managing incoming mail and make sure that you're good with all of the things that you have to do. So if you're the person who has been designated to collect and distribute the mail, then make sure that when you're doing your to-do list or you're setting up your schedule for yourself, either for the day or the week, that you set aside a half an hour to an hour to deal with the mail, because it can take a fair bit of time. Of course, once you're used to the job, you'll know how long it takes. So maybe Monday, you get a lot of mail, you might need an hour, but on Fridays, you might not get as much, you might only need 15 minutes. So you'll get used to how to distribute your time. But it's not as simple as it seems. So first of all, you have to collect the mail from wherever it is. Sometimes the mail person will put it on your desk. Sometimes there'll be a mail box that you put it in. You might have internal and external coming in different sources. Again, every office will be set up differently, but basically you're going to collect all the mail, take it to your desk, and then you're going to sort it. So the easiest way to sort it is, of course, who it's addressed to. So you're going to put it in. What I like to do is have a file folder for each person or each department, depending on who's getting that mail. And I like to put the mail right into that file folder. So then when I pick up that file folder, it's just one thing I have to put into each mail slot rather than 10 individual envelopes. That way I know everything's contained for that person. If you have the authority to open the mail for your manager, which most of us as office administrators do, especially as we move up, if we become office managers or personal assistants. I think some of you guys, and I don't know if any of you are in this group, are working with Cheryl. She's the assistant to the dean in our department. So she would be responsible for opening all the dean's mail and making sure that it's presented in the way that the manager wants it. So when you open the mail, what you're going to do is annotate it. Do you know what that means?
That was my question, Sherry. What does annotating mean? I know it's just highlighting or something, but can you please talk about it?
I can, yeah. Does any, Chloe? Sorry, you're muted.
Isn't it like going through and see which is like prioritizing it?
Yeah, that's part of the process. Absolutely. Good. Anybody else want to add to that? Okay, so what you would do is I'm just going to say this is my letter that I received. I would read the whole letter. I would highlight any important dates that were in here. I would highlight any documents that needed to be, included. And I would write notes in the margin, or I might put sticky notes on it, depending on how my manager wants it, right? So I might put a sticky note saying, please refer to the document attached, or whatever the case may be. So annotating means you read the whole thing and you prepare any documents that your manager is going to need to reply to that message, okay? If there's a date that need, you know, maybe there's an appointment that they need, or there's a meeting coming up, you would put that into the calendar for your manager as well. Also put it into your calendar, make note of it on the letter. If there's any reply required, you could type up the reply and you would put the reply behind the original letter that came in, so that the manager could read the letter, read the reply, and if they were happy with it, just sign off and it's ready to go. If let's say it's a letter of complaint from a customer, what you would do then is you would pull out all of the documentation that the customer is referring to, and you would attach all of that documentation to the letter. So again, when the manager reads the letter, they have all the supporting documentation paper clipped onto that letter. Okay, so that's the whole process of annotating. Sometimes it's very short and sweet. Sometimes it requires a lot of legwork on your part to collect all the information before you present it to the manager. One of the things that Jim talks about is if you are attaching things, to use these butterfly clips instead of just regular paper clips, because regular paper clips, it's so easy for things to slip. If you put this one on and you lock it by putting the things down, nothing's going to slip off in that file folder. So have a ton of these. These are my favorite things in the universe. I still have lots, even though I don't use them anymore. I still think they're great. The other thing is you should always date stamp when you received the letter, so that if anything happens, if a customer complains about taking too long, if it happens, you know, maybe it's something that's going to court, you need to have documented proof of when it arrived. So you should have a date stamp on your desk. Make sure that you put it to the right date every day. Some offices even go so far as to have date and time. So if that's the case, then you got to make sure that you're keeping that time updated as well, so that when you stamp that envelope or that letter when it came in, that it's accurate. We use that at Fanshawe. So if you were on ground, students can drop off assignments to a Dropbox, and it's really important that they're date stamped correctly, because you lose percentages for being late, right? Photocopying, again, if there's any documentation that needs to be photocopied, you're going to do all of that before you present that letter to your manager. And then envelopes. So a couple of things happen with envelopes. I don't know if there's a picture here. I don't think so. But let's say the mail comes in and you have, I should have brought one of my envelopes from upstairs, but you have, oh, here. I have a whole bunch of envelopes because I'm in my office right now. Okay, so here's my envelopes. Okay, so let's say that the mail came in here. This envelope was addressed properly. There was no mistakes. Nothing was wrong with it. I could just throw that envelope in the garbage. But if this envelope came in and there was something missing, maybe the name was wrong, or it's a new address, we haven't had this person before, I would attach this envelope with the letter. Okay. So if it's a customer we deal with all the time, there's no new information on the envelope, it's fine to throw the envelope out. But if there's any new information on that envelope, or you have any questions about it, attach it with the letter to send to the manager, okay? And the other thing that I would recommend is if it is a new customer or client, add it to your contacts before you send that envelope off. Because remember, once it's left your hands, there's no guarantee it's going to come back to you in the shape that it left, right? So always keep track of all the things. Okay, so any questions about the process of distributing mail? So then what would happen, once you've gone through all the mail, you've sorted it to who it goes to, you've put it into the file folders for each person, you would take that file folder and you would walk it over to the mail room. So here's a picture. This is what our mail room looks like at Fanshawe. It's just messy. And each person's name would be in one of these slots, and then you just slide the information into their little mail slot. Okay. Very rarely do we put it on someone's desk. because it's really easy for mail to get lost on someone's desk. That's why we use the mail slots, okay? If it's something too big to fit into the mail slot, you might just put a note in there to say, come see me, I have a large parcel for you, and you keep it at your desk until they come to pick it up, right? Because again, if you were to leave a large parcel here, it could get misplaced easily. And so we don't want that to happen. When you are putting the letters into the file folder for your manager, normally what we do is we put the most important or the most urgent on top, and then the other ones underneath by less urgent contents. But your manager will tell you how they want the mail delivered to them. Some managers do not want you to open their mail. They want to do it themselves. So if that's the case, then skip everything I just told you and you just hand them the envelope the way it comes in. The worst thing that can happen is if you get something that's personal and confidential and you open it by mistake, that is a terrible, terrible feeling. So if that ever happens to you, I hope for your sake it never does. But sometimes a personal or a confidential letter will come in and it might not say confidential or personal anywhere on the envelope. So you open it and as soon as you read the first line, it's like, oh, whoa, I should not be reading this. You need to put it back in the envelope, put a piece of tape on it and say, sorry, opened in error, and sign it so that they know you've seen that, right? Don't try and cheat and pretend you didn't. Just own up to it if it ever happens. Okay. Good. Any questions about that? Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is routing slips. Has anybody ever heard of a routing slip?
Is it the way the mail goes in the company?
Yeah, exactly. So we would use this for like a magazine. Let's say we had a subscription to 3 or 4 different magazines, and we don't want to order 5 copies of the same magazine, but we want all of the managers to see it. We would attach something. You can see my screen, right? Okay, so this is a routing slip. So what you would do is under publication, you would write the name of the magazine or the book or the report, whatever you're sending. And then you would write the sequence of who should see it first, second, third, fourth, etc. So you would write each person's name who needs to see this magazine. They would write in the date that they receive it and they would initial it. So we leave the date and initial blank. That's for each manager to sign as they pass it along. But at the bottom, we always write the date that we started the distribution on, and we always write the date that we want it back on our desk. And we put our name in here if it's coming back to us, okay? Or maybe it's going back to the library or wherever it's going. We'll say, please return to, and the date that it needs to be returned on. Then, so let's say it's a 2-week period, that means that everybody should have it for 3 or 4 days before they pass it along so that everybody gets a chance to see it. And again, this is just a small piece of paper. And what you would do is you would take one of your butterfly clips, which I love. You would attach the routing slip right onto the front of the magazine, or you could even staple it if you want to even more secure. Staple it on, put it on the first person's in their mail slot, and then they're responsible for it getting through. If it doesn't get back to you by the 2nd of March, then what you would do is you would follow up, starting with P. Baelish. Do you have this document? Can I have it back? And if not, then you would work your way back up the list until you find out where it is and why it didn't get back to you. Okay. So again, we tend to talk about this with magazines, but it could be annual reports. It could be financial information. There's a whole bunch of things. Let's say if we had a financial report and it was 14 or 34 pages long, I don't want to print that out 34 or 4 times. So I'm going to print it once and have it rotate through my financial team. Make sense? Good. Any questions about routing slips? All right. So we're going to jump over to page 15. Oh my gosh, did you guys watch the video of Ace Ventura? It's one of my favorite videos. If you have time, I know you guys are busy, but if you want to laugh and you have time, it's only about 3 minutes long. It's Ace Ventura is a UPS delivery guy, and he's delivering a fragile parcel. It's really quite funny. So take time to watch that if you have time when you're doing this. All right. I want to talk about the types of envelopes. Again, I teach office admin because I love all the fun stuff. I love the pens, the pencils, the envelopes. It just makes me happy. So here's my standard number 10 envelope. This is the one that if somebody says, get me an envelope, this is the one that they're talking about, right? You take a full-size piece of paper and you fold it 3 times. I'm just going to do this for you because some people don't know how to fold paper properly. So if this is my letter, this is the part that's written on. I fold the bottom up, I fold the top down. So when the person opens it, they can read the first information. And if it's not for them, they don't see the whole document, right? So that's the way you should fold a letter and put it into the envelope. Just that's the professional way to do it. And so that would go into a number 10. If you happen to be using an envelope though that has the windows, so there's this craft colored one here, or this one has 2 windows, you have to be more careful. So when you fold your letter, you have to make sure you would want to fold it opposite way. So this would be my writing side here. And I have to make sure that my name and address fits into the window and that it doesn't show any confidential information in that window, right? So my return address and my mailing address need to be lined up properly on this document so that when it goes into the window envelope, you can only see that information. Okay, so often when you get a bill from like Enbridge Gas, they use window envelopes so that when you put it back in, your address is already there or their address is there so they know that it goes back to them. One of the things, please be careful if you have a line. So if it's firing of Joe Smith, that line should not appear in your window, right? Because that window is open to the world. So just be really careful with that information. Okay, so there's that size. Then we have this one, right? It's wider than my regular one. It's a little bit taller, same length, but a little bit taller than my number 10. Then you can have craft envelopes, right? So they can come in all different sizes. This is the smallest one you can get, and they can go all the way up to, I love all the stuff I have in my office, all the way up to this size, right? So you put a full piece of paper in without bending it. So if you're sending back a legal document, you'd want to use this size envelope because you don't want it to be bent or creased or folded, like a will or a lease, something like that would go in this type of envelope. The reason most offices use the craft number 10 is because it's the cheapest one to mail, right? It's standard, whatever the price of a stamp is nowadays, it would take 1 stamp. If you get into these odd size ones, you're going to have to put on extra postage because they don't flow through the machine the same way as the standard envelope. All right, so that's there. That's on page 16, I think. And then here's the craft envelopes or the manila envelopes, like I've showed you here. You can get some that have peel and seal, which are great. That way you don't have to lick it. Please, please, please don't lick the envelopes. That's awful. Goodness knows what kind of bacteria is on them. Oh, have you ever watched Seinfeld? Do you know what Seinfeld is? Okay, Seinfeld's a comedy show. And this one man, George, his wife dies because she licks all the envelopes. They buy really cheap wedding invitations and she dies before the wedding from licking the envelope. So please don't do that. It's a really funny episode if you ever want to look it up. Have a little sponge on your desk and use that for sealing your envelopes, okay? Or just use some glue, something along that line. All right. You can also buy prepaid envelopes, which I love when I'm not sure what page they're on. But if you buy the prepaid envelopes, you pay like $7 for the envelope and you can put as much will fit in there and then you can send it anywhere in Canada. So those are another nice way to send things as well. And they're usually a little bit padded with bubble wrap. So if there's anything that you don't want to break, it's a good way to do it. Okay, I'm going back to 16. All right, labels. Labels are going to be your best friend when you work in an office. I hate typing labels. I hate it with a passion, but it saves you a ton of time. If you have to do a lot of mailing, then you want to use labels. When you're setting up your, in week 10, when we switch over, when we start talking about filing, you want to use labels. You want everything to look professional. So the more you get used to typing on labels, the better it will be for you. The reason I don't like it is because I don't do it enough anymore. When I worked in an office all the time, I could print out labels with my eyes closed, but now it takes me time to get it all set up. So here's the secret to being good at using labels. Avery, the number will have a template right in Word, right? So if you buy Avery 5161 labels, then you just go to Word, you go to label, or you go to vendor, you pick Avery, you find the number 5161, it sets up the template for you. So when you type into that template on your Word document, you know it's going to print properly onto your labels in the printer when you print it out, okay? You can use mail merge, which I know you're learning in admin doc. It is a fabulous way to do envelopes as well. And they'll talk more about that process in that class. The hardest part with using labels, and I can't show you here because we're not together, but when we work in the sim office in the classroom, the hardest part is which way to put labels in, okay? It seems really simple, but it is challenging. Do you put it label side up, label side down, which is the top, which is the bottom? So it really depends on the machine that you're using and the way that things get fed in, right? So sometimes your machine will print on this side, sometimes the machine will print on this side, sometimes this is the top, sometimes this is the top. So sometimes it takes trial and error before you get your labeling right. So one of the things I always recommend if you're printing labels is run a plain sheet of paper first. Take that plain sheet of paper, line it up with your actual labels and make sure that all the printing lines up, and then you can put your label sheet in. Trust me, it's going to save you tons and tons and tons of labels if you take the time to print a test sheet first. The other issue is if multiple people use the printer, if you put label sheets in, run to your desk, hit send, come back, I guarantee somebody else will have printed their document on your labels. It's terrible. So you want to use the pause function. So hopefully when you set up your printer, you will be able to pause it until you go to the printer, put in a special code, and then it will run your print jobs. If that's the case, then you're going to set up your labels, you're going to hit send, then you're going to go to the printer, you're going to put the labels in the feed drawer, put in your code, and then you know you're going to print properly. It's the same thing with using colored paper. If you put colored paper in the machine, I guarantee somebody else is going to use your colored paper by mistake. It's the most frustrating thing there is when it comes to printing on anything other than white. Okay, so my little rant on printing and labels. Any questions? Okay, one of the other things that I strongly recommend, if you can, is to get the envelopes pre-printed with your return address, right? Because you should have a return address in the top corner. So have them pre-printed. It's going to save you. Then all you have to do is put the customer on down there. It also looks much more professional if it's done that way. Okay. Ariane, you have a question?
So for the Avery, that's the 10 envelope, right? I kind of missed that.
Yes. Yeah. You can use it
There
on
is-
anything.
So there's two at my house. There's always two white envelopes. Is it the long one or is it the one that's like shorter?
So the 10 is the long one.
Okay, but do you know which one I'm talking about? Like
I do.
like 3/4 of that.
Hang on. This size? It's about half. Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah, I think
Right,
like
so
the
this
size
is
of
the
the
10.
money.
yeah, so money would come in this one. This one's still a little bit bigger than the one you're talking about, but that's close.
Yeah, it's like shorter in a width or in
Yeah,
length.
it would be more narrow.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say probably more like this size. So here's the big one,
That's what I'm talking about.
and this is the money one. Yes.
Yes, is that like for money specifically?
It
Or-
could be, you could put a small note in there, could be tickets. Yeah, just if you don't have anything that's long enough to go in here, that's when you use the smaller one. I would say 98% of the time, you're gonna use this standard number 10 envelope though, in the office.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You know, if you were mailing out a business card or something like that, you might use a smaller one.
That's what I use to like write letters to my friends and like,
Or for, yeah, personal letters, you can use the small ones. Absolutely. Personal is very different than business.
yeah.
The reason we don't like to use this smaller size though, is because you have to fold the paper too many times.
Mm-hmm.
Then it gets thick and then it doesn't run through the machines at Canada Post as nicely.
Now, is that called something specific?
The
Or
smaller
no?
one,
Yeah.
it does have a number, but I don't know if Jim has that
Don't know
here.
it.
Let's see if he numbered them. No, he didn't.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'll find it for you though. Might not be today, but I'll find it for you and I'll let you know.
No, it's crazy we're talking about this. It's just like out of curiosity because I'm like, what is the difference? You know?
Yeah, yeah, it's just what someone in the industry has decided is standard. It was probably Canada Post because Canada Post, it's all computerized, right? So
Yeah.
a human doesn't even look at the mail now when it goes through unless there's a problem. And if there's a problem, then it gets pulled over to a human. So I think that's probably where all these standards came from.
Makes sense. And it is like the Avery, like the 10 envelope, they're thicker too though. So like
Yes.
I find
Yes.
anyways, and they're usually
Yeah,
have a
so
lining
you
inside.
can't read what's in there. It's a little bit more confidential.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely,
All
Yeah.
right.
for sure. Good, nice. All right. Well, now that we're talking about that, the next thing I want to talk about is addressing a letter. And it surprises me that people don't necessarily know the correct way to address a letter. So if I'm writing a letter from home to a friend, I just write it however I want. I don't really care about it. But if I'm doing it in the office, I do need to meet the standards. And so these are the standards from Canada Post. And you do need to go to the Canada Post website for the activity that you have to do this week. So I just wanted to point out the way they want to see your labels made or the way you address an envelope. So you'll notice that it's all in all caps. That's really important. So it should be in all caps. Again, because it's a scanner that's reading this, you want to make it as clear and crisp as you can. So when it goes through the machine at Canada Post, it reads this bottom line first. Then it goes up from there. So the most important line for Canada Post for your letter to get to where it needs to be is that you have the city with the 2-letter province code and the postal code 2 spaces over. So this is really important. So it's city, 1 space, the 2-letter code for the province, 2 spaces, and then the postal code. Okay. Above that is the street address, and above that is the company name. And then above that would be the person or the office number if you had more specifics to put in. Okay. On the top right-hand corner of the envelope, that's where you put your return address. So again, the company name, the street address, the city, the province, and the postal code, same layout. Any questions about that? Okay, so
Sorry, you said top right. Do you mean top left?
is this the right?
Left.
This is the left? Oh yeah, because I'm looking at it backwards. Sorry, yeah, top left.
Okay.
Yeah, so it should be in the top left, and the other one is centered in here. Again, you don't want it to be too low on the bottom of the envelope. You got to make sure that there's a space on the bottom of the envelope for when it runs through that machine. So sorry about that. Yeah, top left and then center. Okay. And then the stamp goes in the top right. So I want to show you a couple of things here. So you can see on my screen here, if it's a post office box or a station. So if you're sending this to a small town, they would have like one post office for the whole town. So that's why they don't have a street address. They have a post office box or a station number. And that's how you would write that in there. And you may need that information for the assignment. So have a look through on how to write those ones. Okay. Again, I wanted to talk about the postal Dakota. Here we go. Okay. If you happen to work for a company that does a lot of mailing, you're probably not going to use stamps. As pretty as stamps are, and you can buy lovely, lovely stamps if you are sending personal letters. But for the amount of mail that most companies send out, we use something called postal indicia or indicia. I'm not sure if it's a hard or a soft C. But what happens is you can see in the corner where you would normally put a stamp, it's just an ink marking. And you get it from one of these machines. So they're called postage meters. There's all kinds of different ones. And when I was a little girl, my mom used to work in a doctor's office, and my job was to stamp all the OHIP envelopes when they went out because we had to mail them in. And it was my favorite thing to do. So you'd feed the envelope in and you'd put in however much money and it would go, and it would come out with this pretty little red stamp on it. So if you have a company that's mailing tons and tons and tons of mail, then you're going to use that. So instead of sticking a stamp on each one, you put your envelopes through here and it comes out with this Canada Post stamp in the corner where the stamp would be. And the reason that companies use this is it's cheaper because you're paying by bulk and you don't have to pay upfront. They bill you once a month for the amount of stamps that you've used. All right, so postal indicia. Any questions about that? Okay. And then last thing I want to talk about is mailing a parcel. Mailing a parcel, I mean, most of us have done this a lot on a personal basis because, well, especially since pandemic, we've been sending things back and forth or ordering things to our house or shopping online. When you are shipping a parcel for your company though, there's a few extra things you have to think about. One of the negative feedback that I got from several employers is that my students don't know how to fill out a bill of lading, how to fill out a form to send a parcel through a company. So this is the Canada Post one, and it asks you for the length, the width, the height of the box that you're sending, along with the weight. So you can either do it in centimeters or in inches and in kilograms or in pounds. So it's entirely up to you, but you would measure the box in all three dimensions, fill it in with the weight, and then your rate is calculated on the size, the weight, and where it's going to and where it's coming from. Now, sometimes Canada Post is the cheapest, but sometimes it's cheaper to go through the private companies. So what I would ask you to do is take some time and click on each one of these. I did this yesterday, and you can get to the bill of lading or to the site to fill in as if you're shipping an order for each one of these. They're all very similar, but slightly different. So just have a look at each one of the shipping forms, so that if you do get into an office and you have to fill one out, you have an idea of what they're looking for and what to fill in, okay? And again, each one's different. So any questions about using the companies? The other thing that I would do before I shipped something is I would, if my company doesn't have a contract with one specific shipper, which we usually do, we use one person all the time, is you want to compare rates. So you want to price it out at each one of these places and then send it the cheapest way with the correct amount of insurance on it. Okay. The other thing, if you're shipping something outside of Canada, then it has to go through customs, and you also have to put a list on it as to what's in there so that the custom officers know what they should expect when they put it through the machine. I think the last thing I want to talk about is if you receive a parcel and you're the signatory, which means you're the person who signs for the receipt of that, which we often are if we're working the front desk, you need to inspect the item. Make sure it's not broken, damaged, dented, opened, that it's in good shape, that's if it says there's 3 boxes, that 3 boxes physically come into your building, because once you sign for it, you're responsible if anything's missing, okay? So I think that's it for the summary of the reading. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Okay, pretty straightforward. I think we all have done lots of mail. It's just that you've got to take it that one next step to that professional level. So what I want to do is just show you. So there's the quiz, which is due Sunday at 11. It's a 10-question true false multiple choice quiz. And then there's also the mail handling assignment. Now in this assignment, you actually have to go in and use some of the websites that we've talked about today. And one of the ones that you're going to use the most is the Canada Post. So I have, oh, I did have it open. I guess here it is. So it's just canadapost.ca, but you can click, there's a link right in your reading as well. There's a link right in the assignment to get you to this website, okay? So this is the main website. Now, if you were working in an office, you want to make sure that you go to business, right? Because you want to make sure you're getting business rates and you're looking at the business information, not just the personal. But today we're just going to do find a postal code. So can you see where I'm clicking here? Okay, then you click on that. I could have just clicked on the icon at the beginning, but this is the greatest thing ever. When you're in an office and you have to send something out, if you don't have the postal code for that company, you type in the address, the postal code comes up for you. So I'm going to just do, I'm going to do Home Depot. So I'm going to put in 600 Fanshawe. Oh, there it came up. I didn't even have to type the whole thing. It's 600 Fanshawe Park Road East, and it's N5X1L1. Simple as that. Okay. Now, if I do Fanshawe College, though, you'll notice that it doesn't come up, right? So Canada Post only has 900 Fanshawe College Boulevard. It doesn't show our Fanshawe. I don't know why. Jim and I are looking into this. We just discovered this the other day. So if I look this one up, I wouldn't be able to find the postal code that I need. So what I would have to do in this case is go to the company website and look up the postal code that way, right? So there's always other ways around it. So this is good for 95% of the places you want to look up, but the odd one, you might have to go into the personal website or call the company and just say, could you please give me your postal code? I'm going to do one in Quebec. wait a minute. Not company name, 1045 Rue de Parlement. Okay. So it's 1045 Rue de Parlement, Quebec. Sorry, my computer wants to reboot. So it's Quebec is the city, QC is the province, and it's G1A, 1A4. And again, Quebec is always G, right? Just like London is N. So every area, every province has its own codes that it uses. If you want to know more about postal codes, I'm just going to go back to Fanch Online here. Pardon me. I can open that in case you guys want to see it. The postal code video is really cute. I'm not going to watch it with you, but you can watch it on your own. It's about, I think it's about 4 minutes long, and it just explains each part of the postal code and how it's developed, why it's letter, number, letter, number, letter, number. And then I've put in a couple of images for Express Post US and international as well. So does anybody have any questions about the mail assignment, quiz, or reading?
So I saw in the postal Canada Post website, there was only one space after the province. Is that
Oh, is
just
there only
for
one?
is that just for the mail? Like for the envelope that we have to do double space?
I thought it was always
Because like if you go to find postage, yeah, and then it looks like it's like at the bottom there, like the actual address, like that doesn't look like double space.
yeah, on an envelope, it should be 2. Let's just go back to the reading and see what Jim says. The last time I looked it up, it was 2, but let's not tell you wrong information. So address guidelines.
Like there, yeah, it looks like double space, but
Mhm. Let me just see.
I'm just so used to using one space. So I'm like, oh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
Yeah, I know I was surprised when I found out it was 2. Okay, so let's see, let's go right to the source. No, it looks like 1. So I guess it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 spaces there, as long as it's in that, on that line.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. So I will make a note to Jim regarding that.
Okay. And I've also made prior mistakes because I used to put a period after each province.
Yeah,
So.
because we used to do that. It's just recently changed.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
this
that's what I was
changed.
familiar with, and it's like they've never said anything at
No.
the post office. So
Yeah, there's a few things that's changed. We used to have a comma, used to have a period. Those things have all been taken away. And again, the reason they took it away is because it's all scanned now. So the
yeah,
fewer punctuation, the easier for the computer. That's all.
fair enough.
Chloe?
I was gonna say, I've definitely been doing it wrong because I had the like city and then the province, and then underneath it was the postal code.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be. That was the correct way. But since they automated, they switched it to this way. So
Yeah.
the thing is, even if you do it wrong, it'll still go through. It just means your mail might get delayed because it might get kicked out of this automatic system and sent to a human and then put back into the system. So the more we can match their requirements, the faster our mail is going to get through.
For international, do you have to put Canada, like the country in?
Yeah, so then if you're going to put Canada, I would put it on the line after the postal code.
Okay.
So Montreal, Quebec, postal code, and then put Canada underneath that. I
Okay.
think they have an international one. Oh, here, there's.
Oh,
No,
postal code.
with 2 spaces. Separate the municipality from the province with 1 space. Separate the province from the postal code with 2 spaces. So their pictures
Okay,
don't match their,
yeah, it's very deceiving.
it is. I don't like that. Well, good. Makes me feel good though. I knew what I was talking about because sometimes
Yes.
so I appreciate that. Yeah, so here you can see this is USA. So
Mhm.
there's the city, the country, sorry, the state code, their zip code, which is our postal code, and then the countries underneath.
Cool.
Yeah. And
And
it
that's 2
could be
spaces. as
England,
well.
it could be Africa, it could be China, Japan, whatever. That would be on the line after.
Alright.
There's a United Kingdom. Good. Any other questions?
So Sherry,
Mhm.
why Canada and US, like they with mailing, they are like same country?
Well, we're the same continent, but we're different countries.
So for that reason, we don't use like, we don't, if we want to send it to, send anything to US, we don't use it as international, right?
It is international.
It
So-
is?
Yes, it is. But it uses, so Canada and US is a little bit complicated. It's like if you're in Europe and you're sending something to a European country, they're different countries, but they're all kind of close together. So it's the same thing with Canada and US and Canada and international. So if I wanted to send something to the United States, I would buy a United States stamp, which are cheaper than international stamps. So if I want to send something to England, it's going to cost more than sending it to the US. So the addressing would be the same. It's just the type of stamp that I would put on.
Just because they're next to each other, or there's something
Yeah.
else?
No, just because, yeah, because we're next to each other. So we've given each other some breaks in costs and things like that. It doesn't, I could truck it to the United States, but I have to fly it to England.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for that reason.
Yep. It's the same thing next week when we talk about phones. We're going to talk about international calling codes. There's several countries that have made an agreement that you don't have to use extra digits. You can just 1 and the area code and dial out. And that, again, it's because we communicate so much together that they've made that agreement. It's kind of the same thing with mail.
Why, Sherry, when I call, let's say the government, they say United States, even if the government in Canada?
That is unusual.
Yeah, when I dial the 1-800 number,
Uh-huh.
I just noticed United States.
Really?
Yeah. So I said maybe it's cheaper, or there is worker there. They work for Canada or something.
The government surprises me. Companies, I'm not surprised at all. For example, if I call TD Canada Trust, I always talk to somebody in Mexico. That's what the call center is. If I called Rogers, it's in Canada now, but it was in India for a long time. But the government surprises me that they wouldn't be in Canada because it's the government.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not, I called once for my brother, like for immigration.
Uh-huh.
And then I saw United States. They said, why it's Canada? Why it's United States?
Huh. That
Yeah.
really surprises me. I that one I can't answer. I wouldn't think that would happen, but they might have offices there. Or maybe because it's immigration, they've got some kind of agreement with whoever's available answers. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Was he
I
coming to
know.
the States?
No, he was here from Lebanon, but I want to
Oh.
ask a question. So I thought I made a mistake. I thought I called the United States, and then I checked the number, and it was not Canadian immigration.
Huh. That's very unusual. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That one I can't answer.
I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I think it's because it has something to do with a toll-free number.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
That's what my
Yeah,
husband
I
said.
think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
what
just-
my husband said.
So yeah, it's just toll-free numbers. A lot of businesses use it, so you're not charged for calling.
Mhm.
So I think it's
Yeah.
like a special designation.
Yeah, which
But it causes confusion,
but-
you know?
It is very confusing. I think maybe
Yeah.
some phones just recognize it as like US because, you know, that's typically what it is. But I think it's because it's like a toll-free number. And I think it has something to do with like the system of that.
the way
Yeah,
it's
I have
registered.
a Truecaller on my phone, so it tells me where the number is coming from or who is this number for.
Mhm. Interesting. Thank you, Marina. Perfect. Okay, any other questions at all?
We have some questions about Silex after we
Okay,
finish.
yeah, so Ariane, you want to start? You had your first question about Silex.
I'm actually trying to figure out what my question was at the moment.
Okay, well, we'll come back
So
to
I
you.
think I think Ayesha and I are in the same group.
Okay,
So maybe yeah, I forgot.
Aisha, do you have a question then?
Yes, we were talking about the presentation at the end of the Silex project. So is this presentation, like each individual one has to do a presentation or one of the group present the whole group?
So my preference would be that the group creates one presentation together and everybody talks. Everybody takes a turn during the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'll try to do is I'll see if I can find a good one from past years and maybe I'll post it so you can see what it looks like.
So each person talk about a specific part, like a portion
Yeah.
of it. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
It's
fair.
not long, right? It can 5 minutes. It's not a long presentation. It's just a really quick. Did you like the project? What did you learn from the project? Who was your mentor? What company did they work for? What was the good and the bad of what you produced? So 5 topics, a minute each-ish.
So it's not what we learn in the 12 weeks?
Yes, that's what I want to hear, what you learned. I don't want you to read your manual to me because I can read it myself. That would be it. That has happened and it's very long to watch. So what I want is I want your reaction to the project. What did you learn? What did you like? What didn't you like? Was it helpful? You
Are
know,
you able to? Is that written somewhere, like for a
yes.
presentation?
So let me share
okay.
my screen again.
Because I was going to say, are you able to send that out? If
Yeah, I
not-
did. So you can see my screen now.
Yes.
All right, so I'm in, if I go into content and I go into Silex project, there, Silex presentation rubric.
We can't see.
Oh, no, we can see.
You're on Word and your desktop.
Oh, well, that's not good. I thought I switched over to 2. Come on,
Back to desktop.
how to do this? Okay. Give me a week off and I lose all my abilities. Okay, can you
Now
see
we can see.
right now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm in content and I'm in Silex project. And then I put it at the top because it was new. So it's Silex presentation rubric. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to download it. Sorry, it's going to open on my other screen.
So Sherry, so each week the question, we have to send it to you or just leave it in the group file?
Just leave it in the group file. Now I have to make a few changes to this because you guys are my online group. I made this for the in-class students. You guys aren't going to attend. We're not going to do presentations in class because we're not in, people don't come, right? I have my core group of people who come, but you're not expected to come to my online sections. You just come if you want to. So right now it says you attended all presentations, you get up to 3 marks for that. I have to adjust that for my online people. So I will post a new one for you guys. You don't have to watch them all, but I would like to watch maybe 3 at least of the presentations once they're posted. So I'll post that one shortly. Again, people who attend, I would like them to ask a meaningful question. I'm not sure how I'm going to adopt this to my online guys, because you're not going to be able to ask questions when it's a posted video. So what's going to happen is you're going to create your presentation and you're going to post it as an MP4 or send it to me as an MP4, and then I'm going to post it into content so people can watch it, but you obviously won't be able to ask questions because it's a recording. So I have to tweak that a little bit for you guys. But this is important. You participated in either the presentation or you created the presentation. So I have some people who are absolutely terrified of public speaking. They can't do it. They have accommodations for that. So they can do the behind the scenes work, right? If they do the majority of setting it up and the other people are happy presenting, as long as the group agrees to that, then you should still get your full marks, okay? So I try to make it as fair as I can. I'm looking for a professional layout, that your team members were prepared when you did your presentation. Everybody knew what they were talking about. Nobody was hesitating. Again, these are individual marks. So let's say that the 5 of us are in a group and 4 of you were prepared and I showed up and I didn't know what I was talking about. I would get crappy marks. The rest of you would get good marks, right? So again, it's not, if somebody is not working in your group, that doesn't impact your grades. Again, spelling and grammar, there should be no mistakes on any of your slides. When you're speaking, your pronunciation should be clear, at the right pace. The talk volume, sometimes I can't hear people because when you're really shy and you don't want to talk, and it's really hard for people to understand. So I don't want you to blow my ears off, but I'd like you to speak with confidence. Again, the talk speed, I have some people who talk too fast. We all talk too fast when we get nervous. So that's something to work on. That you introduced your mentor in their workplace, what you learned from your mentor, what you learned from the project or from the experience. If it had any effect on your future plans, it's perfectly to say, no, I still want to be a veterinary assistant or whatever you want to be, right? Or you could say, you know, I never thought of working in a library, but now that I've heard about it, I might consider thinking of that line of work. So just how did it impact you? And this one, I would like everybody to tell me the personal impact it had on you, and then the likes and dislikes of the project. And please be open and honest with that. You won't lose marks by saying, I didn't like it. It's perfectly okay to say it wasn't what you wanted or whatever the case may be. Reed?
I just have a quick question. I don't know how we are going to do the PowerPoint presentation if we are gonna be everybody on their computer. So I just don't know.
Yeah, so I think what they did last year is they used Zoom and they recorded the Zoom like you did when you had your meeting.
Okay.
And then, so one person would share their screen. So you have the PowerPoint up, and then each person would take turns talking to this about the
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay, Sherry. Thank you. Give me an
Mhm.
idea now.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to look, I have some really, really good ones from some of my online students from maybe 2 years ago even. And so what I'll do is I'll try to find at least one that I can put up as an example, just to give you an idea of what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, I know it's really hard when it's new for you and you're just not sure what we're looking for. So yeah, any help we can give you will be good.
Maybe in class is way easier, like than Zoom when it comes to
Well,
presentation.
Definitely, yeah. So when I teach this in class, it's just like when I taught you guys accounting in class. I expect everybody to come. So I would have, well, I have 83 people this semester. So I would have 20 people or 25 people per session. And you would present live in the classroom. And then we could, discuss it and ask questions. And it's a little bit more interactive, but the content's the same, whether we do it online or not. The ones I'm going to show you, you're going to be shocked at how amazing they were, I think. I was.
What I experienced, Sherry, like when you record to a screen, you don't feel like you're interacting with people, so you feel yourself dry.
Mhm.
Plus, when you look at yourself, it's so hard.
Yeah, I hate watching myself on the screen. I know it's not fun. You get used to it. Eventually you get used to it, but I guess what you do is if everybody has their screen on, so like if I was recording this, if we were doing this as our presentation, you'd all have your screens on. So you'd be talking to each other, and that's how you get that little bit of, you know, animation in. It's like if you have to talk to a black screen, it is much harder to be animated for sure. Yeah. Good. Ariane, did you have any other questions that you can think of?
No, I'm good for now. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
There was another question we talked about in the group, but I forgot what it is. Can you remember, Ariane? I wrote it down.
I think that was it. Like we were just talking about the presentation and then starting
This is it, right?
Yeah, like we have 12 weeks in total. No, 14 in total, right?
Yeah, that was no, the MLA and the APA. Which
Oh,
one do you
yes.
prefer?
Perfect.
APA.
APA?
Okay.
APA.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we
And the
go.
last
That was the
week,
question.
I know, I wrote it down.
Mhm.
And the last week is April. Is it April? April 4 to 10, right?
The
4?
last week of the project or the last week of the course?
The mentor meeting.
That's a really good question. Hang on. I got to pull up the schedule because I don't know my dates.
Because we're just a little bit confused because we made some changes. We had 1 week off.
Yeah. So the last week that you here, let me share my screen so you guys can see this as well. Screen 2. Okay, so the last week that you'll be working with your mentor is week 12. That's such a lie. Yeah, the last week you'll be working with your mentor is week 12. So April 1st is the last time you'll talk to your mentor. The project needs to be handed in to me by April 8th, and the presentation needs to be in by whatever that, I guess by April 8th as well, because I'll be showing them the 11th through the 15th, right? So the course is 14 weeks, but your communication with your mentor stops in week 12, which is April 1st.
So the group roles end on week 12, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if
So-
sorry,
Mhm.
Sherry, if we did another sheet, should I send it to you?
Yes, you can either send it, I would send it to me, put it in the submission folder, it's still open. But in the back of your manual, you're gonna put in supplemental information. So that'll be your weekly roles, your meeting minutes, the attendance, who's coming, notes from your meetings, all of that goes in the back of the manual. Because that helps me when I'm marking for who came, who did their work, those types of things.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all supplemental at the back of the manual, please.
So we have to include those in the group files because we're just emailing those to the group, the minutes.
Yeah, so just hang on to them, and then at the very end, when you put the manual together, just do like supplemental documentation and then just put it in there. You can even put it all together in one document or 2 pages or whatever it takes. It doesn't have to be written up like formal meeting minutes. I don't care about that. It's really just for me to make sure that if people aren't attending, they're losing their 10%. And because I don't want people getting marks for work they're not doing. And I want people who are doing the work to get the reward for that, right? It's the only way I can keep this fair. So.
But Sherry, if someone had an emergency, like for one
that's
time,
different.
that does, okay.
Absolutely. So I mean, there's valid reasons for missing. That's a totally different thing, right? So what I can see by looking at that is somebody misses, and this shows up in week 7 and wants to get full marks. Well, that's not going to happen because by week 7, you guys have got this pretty much in hand, right? So Yeah, that's all on me to make those decisions though. Yeah, so Chloe, you had a question?
Yeah, so will that, like, the file you were kind of just talking about with like the meeting minutes, and is that a separate file from the office manual? Or is that in the,
Sorry, go ahead.
was that like attached to the like last page of our, like, kind of,
Yeah, I would just attach it at the back. So, you know, like books have an index or a table, glossary or whatever. I would just put it at the back under supplemental information. Yeah. That's what I would do.
I just have a question here.
Mhm.
So aren't we gonna send those to a specific submission folder, or are we gonna send it actually to you?
So when you're all done and you've got your office manual all put together and it's 40 pages or whatever it is, you're going to put it in the submission folder for the office manual, which I will open in week 12 probably.
So it's just electronic, right?
Yep, just electronic.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, anything else? We're good? All right. Well, thank you all for
Sorry.
coming.
Sherry, I have a question.
Yes.
So we're doing our office manual in like Google Chat, but we're gonna like move, or like Google Docs, but is it okay if we then move it over to like a Word document?
Yeah, you can leave it in Google Docs and just save it. You can save it as a Google Doc, that's fine, or you can submit it, or you can change it into Word, or you can put it in a PDF. I don't care. If you submit it, so for example, let's say you leave it as a Google Doc and you submit it, if there's an issue with it and I can't open it or whatever, I'll let you know and then you can transfer it over. So I had lots of people submit that way last time though, and I didn't have any issues. So as long as I have permission to view it, it should be fine. So yeah, I'm pretty open. Some people used other, you know, there's other software out there that people used as well. I just say Word because that's what most offices use. So that's what we tend to lean towards. Although Google Docs is coming up, Google Teams is getting really big in offices now. So awesome. Anything else? All right. Well, I thank you all for coming. Good luck with your quiz and your assignment. Don't leave that assignment. I mean, I think he's given you an hour and a half or whatever to do it, but don't leave it too long just because you do have to get onto the Canada Post website and it can be persnickety sometimes, right? So you have to find some information on there and searching around it can be a bit of a pain. So just keep that in mind when you're doing the assignment for this week. And I'll be on Thursday. We answered lots of questions about Silex today, so you may not need to come visit me on Thursday, but I'll be online if anybody needs me. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday for telephones. Woohoo! All right, thanks.
Bye. See you next
Thank you, Sherry.
Tuesday.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Sherry.
Bill.
Bye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.